What's up, everybody, and welcome back to the DK Garage. I'm Jeremy.
And I'm Joe.
Joe, what are we talking about today?
We're breaking down the 36 races on the 2021 NASCAR schedule and giving you our opinion and insight on who we think are going to win.
Yeah, it was a fun episode to do, and we're excited to share it with you. That being said, roll the intro. Unlike most sports, the thing I love most about NASCAR, their biggest race, number one, Daytona 500.
Yeah, this is Super Bowl of the season, and you get it right out of the gate. You can't ask for more than that. It's excitement from the get-go.
Yeah, if you're not able to win the championship, this is probably the second best thing you could do in the NASCAR season.
Yeah, everybody's looking to come here, show up, win. So I'm excited to see who comes out of the gates ready to go, because this really sets the tone for the rest of the season. You start out super speedway racing. I remember I loved watching it as a kid. You just can't go faster than 200 miles an hour, and you can't top that. It's awesome.
It is amazing, and they're inches away from each other for 500 miles. 4 hours, 4.5 hours. If there's a rain delay, a couple days. I mean, they're literally inches away from each other. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's an event that you have to witness to get the full experience.
All right. Obviously, we talked about it in our 2020 recap. Last year was a very wild race with the incident with Ryan Newman. So make sure you go back, check that episode out. A lot of good info in that one. But let's get into the predictions for this year. Let's see how you think the season's going to unfold, and then how I think the season's going to unfold. So what are you looking at for your side of the Daytona 500? Who do you think's going to pull this one out?
Well, I'm looking basically, I think Hamlin has as good a shot as anybody. I think he's won back-to-back races here.
With 3 overall.
3 overall. So I believe he has as good a shot of anybody. And with him having a new car in the race, with Michael Jordan being there, I think people are expecting him to kind of take his stance on the stage and say, hey, I'm still here, going to win some races. And since he has a couple wins there, the history's there, I'm taking him.
Yeah, I mean, he started last year with the win in Daytona, and he won 7 races total, so 6 after that. Absolutely dominated this season. Only one driver was better than him for the wins, was Harvick, but I can't really argue with your pick for the Daytona 500 and Hamlin, but I'm gonna go with someone who finished right behind him, probably should have won, and that's Ryan Newman.
Ryan Newman. Okay.
No, I'm just kidding. It's actually going to be Ryan Blaney.
Okay.
I would love for it to be Ryan Newman,
especially with the dramatics of last year.
He is one driver that I normally don't root for, but if he wins, I will be so happy for him. I'll be happy for the NASCAR, his family.
Just think about the story.
It would be perfect redemption. I think he will be up there right at the very end of the race. I think he'll be probably top 5, and I hope he can keep all 4 rubbers on the pavement this time. But I'm going to go with Blaney. He's been so close in quite a few super speedway races. He knows how to get it done. He knows how to put himself in position to win. And I think this is going to be the year that he pulls it out and really gives Penske a nice, we're still here, setting the tone for the season. And I think he's going to have a good season, but I think he's definitely going to win the Daytona 500.
Yeah, he's one of those guys who's just definitely on the radar every time he shows up to super speedway. He knows how to put it out there, and I think he's got the right amount of aggressiveness is needed in the super speedway event. So I wouldn't argue with you.
Yeah, I think it'll definitely come down to those 2 drivers toward the end of the race. But going into race number 2, the Daytona Road Course. Now, this one was not supposed to be on the regular season schedule, but due to the COVID issues, it's still going on, complications, whatnot, they decided to remove the Auto Club race, was set for a little bit later in the season, and now they're going to stay in the state of Florida for the first 3 races, and they're going to stay at Daytona for the first 2. They're going to be doing the road course. My pick right out of the gate, last year's winner at the road course, he dominated. He was amazing on road courses in general. I think Chase Elliott's going to take it.
Yeah, I'm picking the same guy because we saw what he was able to do on the road courses, especially late in the season. And we've talked about this a little bit in some previous episodes, how we feel that this might lend to him repeating as a champion the amount of road courses that are on the schedule this year.
It's definitely in his favor.
It definitely appears to be in his favor coming into it. So I think we were aligned on this one where we saw what he was able to do last year, where we saw the domination from him from a standpoint whenever he is on the road, where he feels comfortable and is expected to win now. So that's who I've got as well. So I think that's interesting that we've got him lined up right out of the gate like that.
Yeah. I think he's going to be a strong contender for the season. But staying in the state of Florida, going to Homestead.
Race number 3.
I got your guy from the Daytona 500. I've got Mr. Hamlin. He won this race last year. I think he's going to have a good year again, and he's going to get this done at Homestead.
Yeah, it's fits his kind of style of racing. I differ with you on who I think will be the winner ultimately. It's his teammate Kyle Busch.
Okay.
So somebody I'm really expecting to see step up a little bit more this year and learn from his mistakes, and just overall somebody that's usually a pretty solid driver. I think we'll see a lot more from Kyle Busch. So this track fits his style of racing. Coming out of the gate, let's see if he can get that win. I'm expecting it early and often.
So last year he got his first win in the third to last race of the year.
And I'm saying flipping script.
And you think it's going to get a little bit flipped, and he's going to win the third race of this year.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
And I'm saying it's going to come early and it's going to come often.
Okay. That's a lot of Kyle Busch fans are going to be happy to hear that.
Yeah, and I'm not a Kyle Busch fan in my previous picks and things of that in years. You wouldn't expect that, but I just expect Kyle Busch to come out with an attitude and be KFB. He's got to step up and show that he's somebody to contend with, because we didn't see it last year.
All right, so moving on to Las Vegas. That is going to be the fourth race of the year. Logano won last year. The guy who finished second in both Vegas races was Matty D. It's been close in several races last year, even going back to his days at Levine the year before, Levine Family Racing. I think he's going to pull out his first victory, race number 4 at Las Vegas.
Matty D. All right, that would be a huge win for them.
And the win number 100 for Wood Brothers Racing.
That would be number 100, and that's what I was getting to. It's a huge win for that organization, and to be able to have somebody like Matty D, who has such a great personality and is connected so well with the fans, it'd be great to experience that early in the season as well. I think it'd be awesome to see, but I'm going to go with last year's winner, and I'm picking Joey Logano. I think he's this fat track fits his style of racing. He's one of those guys that's usually kind of close to the vest, but he can be rowdy, and Vegas can be a place he can come out, and I think it'd be interesting to see if he's able to get a win early and see if he's able to capitalize on that later in the season.
Okay. Alrighty. I can't disagree with you because he did win this race. Won't be surprised at all. Penske affiliate teams, so I think either way, I actually expect all Penske cars to probably be very, very strong at Vegas. The only thing that's going to take them out is going to be a wreck, and probably by somebody else. So I like that pick. I am going to stick with Matty D, but I understand where you're coming from.
Yes. So I think from here we're going on to, where's that? We're staying close out there in the west of Phoenix, right?
So normally we'd be doing 3, what do they call it? The Wild West road trip or something like that. Only 2 this year. We mentioned Auto Club already got dropped due to COVID. So we're in Phoenix. That's where the championship was at last year. It's where the championship race will be at this year. Chase Elliott won the championship. He won that race. And I am blanking on who won I believe it was
Joey Logano had won this race originally the first time around.
Okay, so I think Penske's going to be strong. I'm going to go with Brad Kay. I expected him to do a little bit more in the championship race last year, but he's strong. I think he's going to pull it out in Phoenix.
I'm going with Kyle Busch. I've got him winning his second in many races again. He did fairly well here, finished fourth, I believe, the first race on the schedule last year. And with the way I see him being able to adapt and kind of, I guess, learn from his mistakes again, hopefully be able to dial it in, and I'm picking him to take his second win in 3 races here.
Okay, so that would wrap up the West Coast swing. The race number 6 is going to be at Atlanta. Last year, Harvick won the most races throughout the season. He didn't win his first race until they came back from the COVID break, so that was, I think, race number 5.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have him winning, either of us, yet, but I have him winning Atlanta. He won this race last year. He wins Atlanta very often. I think this is going to be his first win of the 2021 season.
And I'm agreeing with you on this one, too. So we're not agreeing very often later on in some of these picks, but here we align again. He's got the Harvick line, if you will, and he rides that, and he's hard to pass.
He's just, the team's got this track dialed down. They know what to do here. They know what kind of car to give him, and as long as he keeps it clean, he's tough to beat here. So I like it.
Yeah, I think next on the schedule is one of the most anticipated races we're looking forward to, the Bristol Dirt Race. So that's going to be interesting to see. So you want to kind of lay the groundwork of what they can expect that makes this a little bit different from a day-to-day race that we're used to seeing?
Well, I wish I could tell them exactly what to expect, but that's what makes this race great. Nobody really knows. There hasn't been a Cup race in like 50 years or something like that. Some of these guys race dirt tracks in their off season or in between races in the Cup season, but most of these guys actually don't race dirt, or some of them have never raced dirt. They're pavement only. That's a recipe for some mayhem, especially Bristol. Everything's tight. There's no room to hide. I think I hope we can get a couple lanes to run in where the guys won't just have to follow the leader. We'll see. But I'm going to go with the guy who's won the Chili Bowl, which is a very famous dirt race if you're unfamiliar. I'm going to go with Christopher Bell. He's moving up to new equipment. We mentioned it in our preview show, episode 2. He's going to have a new crew chief, and I think he's going to be on a mission this year. So I'm going to pick Christopher Bell winning the Bristol Dirt Race.
And like you said, I think there's a lot of people that don't understand how experience, I think, will lend itself to success in this race specifically. Mm-hmm. And there's not very many folks that have that experience that are going to be starting. So I'm going to be picking somebody that I know has experience and who has recently been having a lot of success on the dirt tracks and in other elements of racing, Kyle Larson in that number 5 car. So he's got that new ride over at Hendrick. He's funded, and with his experience especially with his time off, with his unfortunate issue that he experienced and hopefully has learned from, that he gets a win early, and it becomes something that he's able to kind of feel like he's finally back, maybe.
Kyle Larson was the guy that I wanted to pick for this race, and I think he could win. He's probably going to finish second. There's a couple other guys that I want to keep my eye on. Chase Briscoe, Ricky Stenhouse. They all have great dirt track racing history. This would be a really good redemption, I think, for Kyle Larson. Just everything that he's gone through. It would be fitting if he wins this. I think the time away from Cup, this will only be the 8th race of the year. Maybe that's enough time to kind of mesh with the new team, but I just think he's 7th race of the year. I think they're just going to come up a little bit short, but I think they will be competitive. So I won't be surprised if Larson wins, but I think it's going to be Christopher Bell.
And this is going to be a race that's really going to impact the playoffs later on.
Oh, yeah.
So this is very
This
interesting.
is a race that a guy we're not even talking about, not even on our radar at all. He could pull it off. Some crazy stuff happens at the end. Larson takes out Bell, or Bell takes out Larson, and then some guy, Corey LaJoy or something just happens to be up front
And
and takes advantage.
Exactly, and we don't get these wild card kind of races often. They're kind of sprinkled throughout. Daytona right out of the gate is one of them.
Yeah.
And this one
Talladega.
early.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You can
but
almost
this one
treat
early.
this. You can almost treat this as far as the randomness and wild cardness, if you will, like a super speedway race. I think a lot of good guys could get wrecked out just because of the inexperience of other guys.
Yeah.
So
It's going to be key,
yep.
and we're going to get a winner that somebody in the playoffs based on this win potentially that you might not expect.
So we go from one short track modified from pavement to dirt to Martinsville, which is going to stay pavement. And this is another kind of key race. This is a big race. You get the grandfather clock. It's a highly coveted trophy for winning the race. I have Martin Truex winning this race. He's in his career, in his past, short tracks have really kind of eluded him, the wins. But he has really stepped up his short track game, and the team has been really putting good cars out there for him. So I got Truex. I think this will be the first win of the year for him, and I think he's going to have a pretty solid year again.
Yeah, and we're looking for somebody to that we saw have some success finishing high last year in Martin Truex, but never really felt like he captured what he was fully capable of with his equipment. And so I'm expecting Martin Truex to get a win here as well. He's had some dominance in these races, but just never has capitalized. Or he has capitalized, winning 2 out of the 3 races, last 3 races here. But coming in and
just say it.
I'm picking Martin Truex here because
Okay.
I think he's going to be able to capitalize on what he wasn't able to have success in last time with a couple, 7 race span we talked about where he had top 2 or top 3 positions. He'll capture that, finally have some success early, and he's won 2 out of the last 3 races here. So
Yeah.
I think this is an early check mark off that elusive win list.
Right. So moving on to Richmond, another shorter track on the schedule. I personally have Brad Keselowski winning this race. Last year, he had a really strong short game setup. The team, they dominated several short tracks last year. I mean, from a DK perspective, if you didn't have him in the lineups in those races, you weren't going to win any money. So I think this is going to be where he's going to come out, be strong, maybe not dominate quite as much as last year, but I think he's going to be real strong at Richmond.
And I've got Kyle Busch here again. I've got Kyle Busch winning his 3rd race of the season here fairly early. This is we're not even 10 races in, and I've got him winning 3 races. So somebody I'm looking to step up and get another key win to solidify himself in the playoffs. He's had some success here recently with a couple wins and then having a 2nd place finish as well whenever they were wrapping up the season in 2019. So I think he will be able to get that 3rd win, really stamp he's as a contender again, and we'll see what happens as we go on to that 10th race.
Yeah. All right. The 10th race is Talladega. I love this race. Besides the Daytona 500, this is probably my 2nd favorite race. I mean, there's some I love short track and all that, but man, just Talladega, it's just that next level past Daytona. It's just a little bit bigger and just a little bit more intense. This is another one of those races where anyone can kind of sneak in, get that win. Some would say, well, they may not have deserved it. If you survive a Talladega race and win, you deserved it. So, in my opinion, the guy who's going to survive this race is going to be a rookie from last year that unfortunately came close to wins, but didn't quite do it. But I got Tyler Reddick.
Oh wow! So you're taking that approach. That's I could see him benefiting from what he learned last year and really capitalizing. And this is a speedway that lends itself to having someone like him step up and be able to prove that he belongs in the Cup Series.
And you got to realize too, his teammate is Austin Dillon, and Austin Dillon is known for being pretty strong at super speedways. He's won the Daytona 500. I don't know if he's won Talladega. I'd have to go back and dig into the stats, but I know he's won at Daytona, and I know he's been strong on super speedways in general. So I think they got a super speedway program that's capable of winning with Tyler Reddick, and I think he's going to do it.
Well, I've got somebody you've already picked and somebody you picked at a super speedway. I've got Ryan Blaney. So you picked him at Daytona.
Yep.
I know where you came from with this pick because he is solidified himself as a speedway racer, super speedway racer, and this is something I'm expecting to see. I think he gets that win and gets the check mark into the playoffs.
Yeah, I would not be surprised if he wins this race. I actually had him in my contention when I was going through the list, preparing for the show. I tossed around Blaney, but ultimately I decided to give it to Reddick. But yeah, I can't disagree with that pick there. I like it.
Yeah, so we go from Talladega to Kansas. So interesting to go from super speedway over to speedway racing in Kansas. I think from some of the experiences that we've seen in the past, this lends to somebody that we haven't talked about yet. Alex Bowman showing up in the number 48 cars, who I'm picking to win. It feels like it could be something that solidifies him as a real playoff contender early. He's got some experience here at Kansas where he's had some opportunities to win but has never capitalized on that. And this really is his type of track. If you look at some of the previous histories, especially later on in the season whenever he was really doing some good things, I think this will shape up to ultimately be a win for him.
Yeah, I don't have Bowman. So we have most of the regular season done as far as our picks. We're going to pick 2 races that are new on the schedule while we go through this, and then we're going to pick the playoffs as we go. Currently, I don't have Bowman winning a race, but that's not because I don't think he's capable. I think it's just going to be a little bit of an adjustment going from the 88 to the 48. I think there's just a lot of guys out there hungry for wins. Not saying he's not. I think he's going to be a strong contender in races. So I would not be surprised to see him pull this out at Kansas. But I got Hamlin winning this race. I think he was strong here last year. He was just strong last year in general. I think he's going to have another good year. He's going to be contending. He's going to be typical Hamlin. Mm-hmm. He's going to be a guy that you're going to have to be focused on every race, and him or his team will do something stupid in every couple races to take him out of contention.
They have shot themselves in the foot in the past.
Yep. And so I think we're going to see them not do that in this race, and I believe Hamlin's going to pull out this race.
Well, after this, we go to Darlington, somewhere they raced at 3 times on the schedule last year because of the way COVID impacted everything. So Kevin Harvick won 2 of those races with Denny Hamlin winning that 3rd race. And both of those guys were well on their way to strong playoff runs. I've got Kevin Harvick winning here again. So that would make him a 3-time winner in 5 races. Mm-hmm. But this is a track that he's able to dominate on and it just fits his style of racing. And he is going to hopefully already have stamped his way into the playoffs, and this is just going to further that cause.
I have Harvick as well. I agree with basically everything that you just said. They're strong here. They're strong as a team. I think the only guy who might upset them, at least for the regular season, is probably Hamlin. They're just dialed in here. So, yeah, no disagreement here. I like it. I'm on Harvick too. Moving on to Dover, race 13 of the season. I'm going to go with Truex. I think this is the second win I have for him this year, which would be more than last year. He only had 1 last year. I just think this is a race that it just meant for him. I think he's going to do it. I think he's going to be strong. There's a lot of guys that are going to be strong here, but I don't know. I just think Truex is my pick.
Well, I've got Larson here, so he's already
That's interesting.
He's already had a win in my scenario with the dirt road race over in Bristol. So he's had some success here with a win in 2019. So I think it could be a place where he really uses his experience and the equipment there, being at Team Hendrick now, and capitalizing on it.
That's an interesting pick. I think if they can do that, if they can pull out 2 wins by the 14th race, that would be incredible for that team, and that would make them a legit playoff contender this season. I don't have much information on Kyle Larson in front of me as far as Dover goes, so I can't dispute your pick. I like it, but I'm going to stick with Truex.
Well, I can go, that's what it is.
Yeah, so this is where I feel like the show could definitely start going off the rails, and we did this on purpose. I told you when we decided to do this show, I wanted to leave a few races out so we could kind of discuss and just see what we come up with. And the race that I'm the most excited about this year, it's new. It's just an awesome facility, is Circuit of the Americas in Austin, Texas. And I have some guys that I'm sure it's going to be favorites for most people. This is a brand new race for the Cup Series. No one's ever raced here. The only Cup car that's ever been on here was driven by Tony Stewart. And I guess it was good enough for him that they're racing here now. What are your thoughts on Circuit of the Americas coming to NASCAR going there, and what we may expect in this race?
Well, I know it was designed for F1 originally, and definitely F1 is an awesome style of racing. Completely different than NASCAR.
Way different.
So you're approaching it completely different, in my opinion, whenever you're looking at it.
It's not a typical NASCAR road course.
Exactly. So whenever they're showing up, this is one of those races that they'll actually get some practice.
Mm-hmm.
So
and qualifying.
Yeah. So I think we'll see guys that have that road course experience really benefit, because they'll be able to communicate what the car's doing. They'll get the time for adjustment, so you'll be really looking at guys that have that crew chief driver combination that have had success on the road course. So I'm really excited to see the type of racing that we get, being that this road course wasn't designed for NASCAR's originally.
So going with that information, I was thinking about making this my pick, but you sold me. I can't go against. I'm going to go with Chase Elliott. I think he wins the inaugural COTA race, Circuit of the Americas. I think Truex will be strong here. May even see a guy like Harvick strong, maybe getting a little extra information from Tony Stewart being in that organization. Also, even Chase Briscoe, very strong on road courses in the Xfinity Series. So, but no, I'm going to go with the number 9. I think with you said about the crew chief, the driver experience on road course, being able to really get the car dialed in with the practice and qualifying. Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, so you mentioned that experience that I brought up earlier. That's why I'm going with the number 4 team and Kevin Harvick. He's got that connection with Rodney Childers, and they'll be able to have their car dialed in by the time they're ready to wave the green flag, that they'll just have minor adjustments that they'll be able to be on the same page about. In my opinion, that's really going to lend itself well to success. And I think that Kevin Harvick gets a win, and I picked him 2 races previously as well. So I hope he establishes himself to get on that roll.
That'll be interesting if he can pull that out. All I can say is whoever wins, I'm excited. Yeah. So moving on to the Charlotte race. This is the Coke 600.
Yeah, and that's one of the longer races of the year. I'm excited to see a longer distance and see who really is able to benefit from the fatigue and everything that's already built up by this time in the season, who's able to handle that. and I'm picking somebody that's younger and in my opinion, has had some early success, and that's Ryan Blaney. It's a style of track type of race that I think potentially lends to his attributes, so I'm picking him.
I like that pick. My pick is going to be Chase Elliott. So that would mean he would win back-to-back races. But the thing is, the main reason why I'm picking him, he almost won this race last year. It was a crazy caution at the end of the race. They decided, along with some other teams, to come in to pit, get 4 fresh tires. And some of the guys didn't stay out. Or some of the guys, they didn't come in. They stayed out. One of those guys was Kozlowski. And he won, and Elliott ended up finishing second. I think he restarted like 8th or 9th or something like that with like, was it a green-white checker? I think it was a green-white checker.
I believe you're right.
Or maybe just a couple extra laps. It was very close to the end of the race. Either way, Chase dominated that race. He was great, and I think he's with winning the championship, that's like a huge monkey off your back. I mean, a lot of guys have, I guess, that monkey on their back, but just being able to say you're a NASCAR champion, that's got to be so good for his confidence. All these other racing that he's been doing, I think this is just, he's going to continue what he was doing last year. So I'm going to pick him for the Charlotte race. Coke 600.
Completely understand where you're coming from. From here, we're going to go into Sonoma and another road course. So it's another one of, 6 or 7 road courses on the schedule this year?
It is 7 points paying races so far. We'll just say this right now. I think that this schedule could get tweaked a little bit due to some COVID early on in the season.
Because this was one of the races that was dropped in 2020 that was originally on the schedule, but due to COVID was impacted.
Right. So I hope we get to race at Sonoma. It's always fun to watch that. It's a crazy road course track. So
one of my favorites to play on the old video games, by the way,
yeah,
because it was so different than
it's challenging,
and it was so different than all the speedway racing. That's why I've kind of over the years adapted and love road course racing so much.
Yeah.
And this was one of the tracks that...
yeah, I mean, this was one of 2 road course tracks for many years on the NASCAR circuit. So it is a big race. So I got Truex winning. He's been strong here in the past. He's strong on road courses in general. I got Truex. That's my pick.
Yeah, he's got 3 total wins at this track in his history, and he's won the previous 2. So I've got him. I think this is probably one of the last races where we align with our picks, and this just solidifies him as why he could potentially be a champion in the 2021 season or these type of races. Mm-hmm. So I'm excited to see this race, and then from here we really get kind of a wild card race and a little bit of a break in the season.
Yeah, and that's in reference to the All-Star race. This year, it'll be at Texas Motor Speedway. So in order to get COTA on the track, they took the spring race away from Texas Motor Speedway and gave them the All-Star race. Last year it was in Bristol, so that
Bristol
was fun.
Night race.
Yep, that was fun. And for several years before that, it had been at the Charlotte Motor Speedway. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if this is going to be a traveling thing that the All-Star race. That'd be kind of cool if it is. But I know this was somewhat of a compromise to make the schedule work out the way that it did. Hard to say what's going to happen. Texas is a fun track to watch. It's a fast track. These guys, winning is the only thing that matters. So I personally, I'm going to go with the guy that won in last year in the fall race. And that is your guy for this year, Mr. Kyle Busch.
So you finally give him a win.
Yeah, I think this will kind of propel him towards the rest of the season. But this will kind of be that first domino that falls for him.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, this is an exhibition race, so it's not a points-paying race, so you don't have to worry about that. Everybody's fighting for that $1 million payday. And you picked him winners earlier that I think this style of race will really fit his mold, and that's Tyler Reddick. We saw him and his teammate have some success here last year with Austin Dillon finally getting a win there. And
hell of a win.
Stamped his.
It was great.
Yeah, he stamped his ticket into the playoffs with that. And even though this is not an opportunity to get into the playoffs, it is an opportunity to make a nice payday. And I think Tyler Reddick takes advantage of this type of race, this style of racing, and he gets a win.
Well, I don't know if this has anything to do with it, but last year the winner of the All-Star race was Chase Elliott, and he won the championship. Maybe that extra money gave him a little extra wiggle room in how they were able to set the cars up. We don't know, but hey, it happened. So I do like that pick. Now, getting back to points-paying races, we're going back to another first for the Cup Series. We're going to Nashville Superspeedway. This is another one of those races that we left blank because we wanted to talk about it a little bit. They've had several Xfinity races, no Cup races. I think they're going to do practice here, right? Practice and qualifying?
I believe so, and they really haven't had a NASCAR event on here at this track since 2011. So it's been a decade since any of these drivers have had any experience, and there's only a handful of Cup drivers that have experience here. So
yeah. So if you look back at, let's see if I have it here. Yeah. So of the current Cup drivers, Kevin Harvick, Brad Keselowski, Joey Logano, Kyle Busch, those are the only drivers who are in the Cup Series who won here in an Xfinity car.
Yeah, and so looking at that, I see a two-time winner in Brad Keselowski. He's one of those guys that I think takes advantage of just an awkward situation, in my opinion, showing up at a course that hasn't been raced on at the NASCAR level in a decade, and just feels like a Brad K race, in my opinion. So I'm going to put him as the winner there, and I think that's race number 2 that I've got him winning before the playoffs. So really solidifies him as a playoff contender, in my opinion.
Yeah, I like that pick. I think they'll be strong. I have Brad winning a few races this year, but I'm going to go with Harvick. He's got the experience here. They're strong. I mean, what else do you need to say except for last year? I mean, 9 wins. He's going to get wins this year. I don't expect a Kyle Busch type season from Harvick this year. So given the experience that he has versus the limited experience that most of the field has, my pick is going to be Harvick for Nashville.
And then we go to Pocono. That's the tricky triangle, if you've never heard it referenced before.
And this will be a back-to-back race, so race Saturday, race Sunday.
And that was originally scheduled last year, and with the COVID impact,
that happened several times.
We saw it happen several times, and it was supposed to be a cool fan event, and it just ultimately didn't play out that way with what happened.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to see maybe it will play out the way it's scheduled to this time.
Maybe there'll be some fans who, so one of the knocks from, I would say, I guess, NASCAR Twitter, if you will, they don't really love the Pocono racing. It can get a little boring at times, but I got to say, I was in that boat too, but I thought last year they did a great job. It was exciting. A little gimmicky, the top 20 inverted for the second race, but that made it more exciting. But I've always heard that going to a Pocono race is a heck of an experience. It's really built for the fans. So I'm really hoping that by the time they get there in June, almost the end of June, that there'll be fans who get to experience this back-to-back race weekend, because it's going to be, I think, pretty exciting.
Yeah, and it really, last year we saw 2 guys that had established their dominance, establish it or continue it here at Pocono, and that was Kevin Harvick and Denny Hamlin. I'm picking Denny Hamlin here. It's just a track that he's had success on. I remember him winning his first race here, and it was because he was using a simulator, and he was able to dial that in. So for whatever reason, this is one of those tracks, whenever you're talking about having a favorite, Denny Hamlin has to be at the top of the list, and I've got him winning this.
I like Hamlin too, but I like him in the race on Sunday, the second race. It's 25 extra miles. So enough time for him to probably recover from the pit road mistake that is probably going to happen. I'm going to go with Kyle Busch for the first race.
All right.
He's got great track history here. He's got some wins. He's run strong. Last year, it's not a typical Kyle Busch type season. So I like him the first race, but I like your guy Hamlin in the second race.
All right, well, I'm flipping that. So I've got Kyle Busch in the second race because I think it's one of those things where he'll be able to learn from what he didn't have success on in the first race and really capitalize it and win another race.
So basically, we're picking Joe Gibbs Racing for Pocono. Got it. All right.
Yeah, pretty much.
Let's go to another new track for the Cup Series, and that's Road America. This is going to be a tough track. They do race here in Xfinity. Always a fun race to watch. And because that they're doing that, I'm going to go with a guy that is only a couple years removed from Xfinity, who has got quite a bit of racing here, and that's Christopher Bell. So in my scenario so far, this would be his second win of the year.
Yeah, and I'm going with somebody that we haven't mentioned or has won a race on the schedule yet, and somebody that's young that has some road course experience and some experience here at Road America, and somebody that needs to stamp their way into the playoffs early, and I'm going William Byron. I think he's got a little bit of that experience that he has here will lend itself to a win that he's needing early.
Yeah. I like William Byron. I like the things that his team is doing. I do think he's going to have a strong race. It didn't work out in the regular season where I picked him to win a race, so we'll see if he's able to pull through with that. But I do think he's going to be a guy up there in the front a little bit more than we saw last year. So I like the pick. It'll be fun to watch that one play out.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, that's for sure. Somewhere we're going for the second time already.
Atlanta.
Again, we both had Kevin Harvick winning earlier. Now we both have Brad Keselowski. I know why I picked him. Why are you going with him?
I think he's going to have a strong year, just like he did last year. It's another contract year for him. He seems to be working well with his new crew chief. I don't know if it just maybe him and Paul Wolf weren't clicking the same way, but last year he had a strong year. I think it's going to continue some, and he's got good track history here. I say this race probably is going to come down to him and Kevin Harvick, and I think in race number 2 at Atlanta, I think it's going to be Brad.
Yeah, I think he's one of those guys as it gets later in the season and it just becomes a grind. Brad Keselowski goes to work. Mm-hmm. And I really think that he'll be able to capitalize on where they're at in the season and get a key win here. And it's really going to most likely ultimately be him and Harvick at the end. It's going to be interesting.
Yeah. Moving on to New Hampshire, race 22 of the season. This is going to be another fun race to watch, but I think it's going to be kind of top heavy. I think we're going to see a lot of the bigger name guys up there. And because of that, I'm going to go with Hamlin. I think he's going to pull this one out. He'll do what he has to do, even if it's bump and run somebody, he'll do it. And I think he's going to pull this one out.
I'm going to somebody that's going to go to work late in the season and you expect to be a contender here at New Hampshire, and that's Kevin Harvick. So I think we'll see him really step up when he needs to step up late in the season and just make sure that people know that he's ready to be in the playoff talk later on in the season as well. So
earlier when we were talking about Sonoma, you'd mentioned that it was one of your favorite tracks to race in like NASCAR racing games. My favorite racetrack to race in any series, really, just my favorite track in general. I love the way it's laid out. It's just super fun, and it's fun to watch. That's Watkins Glen, another classic NASCAR road course race. A guy who, and this is also a race that, due to COVID, got taken off the schedule. We got to see the Daytona road course take its place, which was also fun. But a guy that I think he's just so good at road courses right now, and he's so good at Watkins Glen. I think it's going to come down between Chase Elliott and Truex, but I'm going to go with Chase Elliott again.
Yeah, and I can't blame you. He's got the past 2 wins here. but somebody that you've already mentioned, Martin Truex, has really been dominant for years here. He won the race before Chase has won the previous two, and he finished second in both the races that Chase won. Yeah. So I'm picking him to win here. He's a road course warrior, in my opinion. He really is able to just get everything out of that car whenever you're at a road course, and it just really lends to his style racing.
I won't be surprised if Truex pulls it out. I really won't. He's great here, but like I said, I'm going to go with Chase on that one. But this is something that we've not got to do really ever, and that's back-to-back road course racing. From Watkins Glen, we go to Indianapolis road course.
Yeah, and
so no more Brickyard 400.
That's the thing that is really kind of a bummer, but at the same time, you and I both love road courses. I'm picking somebody I haven't even picked yet, and we're only 3 races away at this point in the season. Our former champion, who's that?
Chase Elliott.
Yep, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So it's a style of racing that actually I had picked him. So I picked him Daytona road course.
Okay, but still, you haven't picked him very often, and so far this would only be his second road course win. And I think he'll be strong. He's going to be strong at all the road courses unless he takes himself out. And even when he takes himself out, he can still get himself back in. We saw that at the Roval with one of the most dramatic comeback wins ever. I also am going to go with Chase, but not Chase Elliott. I'm going with Chase Briscoe.
Oh, wow.
I know he's a rookie, but he won this race in the Xfinity race last year in the rain. And he was going up against A.J. Allmendinger, who is known as a road course guy. I'm sure he'll be racing in several of these road courses. And if he's in this one, heck, I might change my pick on race day and go with him. But no, I'm going to go with Chase Briscoe. I think he's going to do something just to put himself in contention. You know, maybe Elliott and Truex, maybe they get into each other, and I mean, who knows? But my pick's going to be Briscoe.
Yeah, it's an interesting pick. He's got some experience here. So
we had a rookie win last year from Stewart-Haas, got into the playoffs. Why can't they do it again?
Yeah, it's an interesting pick. Yeah. That's all I'm saying. I'm going on to Michigan now to the second from last race until the cutoff. So who do you have? Because I don't think you've picked this guy yet.
I'm going to go with Kyle Larson. He's got good track history at Michigan. This will be race number 25, so there's plenty of time for him to start meshing with his team. And I think he's going to have some top 5, top 10s well before this race. So it's not like it's going to be a surprise winner. But I think he's going to put himself in contention in this race, and he's going to pull out the win.
I'm going with somebody already picked, Denny Hamlin.
Mm-hmm.
This kind of racetrack really is a Denny Hamlin feel to it. Hasn't won here, I don't think, before, but he's somebody that's usually dialed in by playoff time, and I really, really think that we'll see him take advantage of, I don't know.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. He's great here. I think he'll be up front. I think Harvick will be up front during this race. He won this. I think he won both races at Michigan, the back-to-back races last year. So he'll be strong. Brad will be strong, I'm sure. But I like that pick. It makes a lot of sense. The last race of the year is at Daytona. So you got the first race and then the last race, and not of the year, sorry, of the regular season. A wild card race. Anything can happen. Anyone could potentially win if they just get lucky and avoid the wrecks. We saw it last year with William Byron. I mean, he was going to be in the playoffs irregardless, but it was big for him, you know. And anytime you win Daytona, it's big. I personally, even though he's going to a little bit lesser equipment, they have a good super speedway package. I'm going to go with Eric Jones of the Richard Petty Motorsports car, number 43.
That's going to be interesting. It's one of those super speedway racing events again where it really could be anybody's race. So With that being said, I'm taking that former driver that is now driving for Michael Jordan, Bubba Wallace. I think this lends to some of the style of racing that he's had some success in, getting a lot out of his equipment. This could be a race where they really benefit from that.
Yeah, that would be huge for the sport if he can pull out this win
At such an event too, in the Daytona.
And he's good here, but both he's always run good on super speedways. When he gets through the wrecks, he's usually there at the end. Eric Jones has won on super speedways, so I like it, and that would really start kind of shaking up the playoffs.
This is really the deciding factor of who is in the playoffs, and if you are able to get a win here, that last week of the season before the cutoff, that's huge because it's one of those things where there's only going to be a limited amount of drivers that get in on points by the time this all shapes up.
Yeah, so let's get into the playoffs. There's a lot to go here because we have not picked these races, so we'll try to. We've been to most of these tracks already, so we don't have to get into too much detail, but going to Darlington, first race of the season, or of the playoffs, you win, you advance to the next round. Who you like?
Kevin Harvick.
Yeah.
It's one of those no-brainers. We've talked about his experience and previous success here. Early on, he stamps his way into the next round. I'm picking Harvick.
Yeah, I like him too. He's just going to be tough, I think, in the playoffs, especially the way last year played out. Maybe they peaked too early. Maybe they recalibrate this year. You see him kind of peaking a little later in the season. But he did win 2 of the first 3 races of the playoffs last year. So I like it. I'm going with Harvick as well. We move on to Richmond. That's going to be another fun race, and I think Brad's going to win that one, Brad Keselowski.
I'm going with somebody that has had some success here, and I'm picking the 19 car Martin Truex.
I like that.
He's got a couple wins. I think he's somebody that needs a win early in the playoffs to really establish himself as a contender. He's a former champion, but he was so close last year and was never able to capitalize. I think he needs to see that early win.
Yeah, I like that pick a lot, and I might be picking that when we get to that race because, Brad's strong there. Truex is strong. Going on into Bristol, so we have 3 short tracks in this first round. Really, anything can happen, but I think we're going to see the bigger name guys. I don't think we're going to see any surprise winners pull the first round out. But at Bristol, I think it's going to be a little bit of a bounce back year for him. From what we're used to seeing, I think Kyle Busch is going to win Bristol.
I'm with you on that. He's my pick to win the most races in the regular season. I think he is going to be able to take his car and really put it where it needs to be when you're looking at short track racing. He's had some success here. Let's move him on to the next round.
Yeah. So after the first round, the first race in the second round is Las Vegas. I think you went with my guy. Let's see. Yeah, I'm going to go with the guy you picked earlier in the year, and that's Joey Logano. If you've been paying attention, keeping track, this will be Logano's first win in my scenario.
Oh,
it was
wow.
very hard to not give him a win at other tracks. I think he's going to be strong. But I think he's going to struggle a little bit this year as far as the wins go. We've seen that play out a couple times, a couple years in his career. But I think at Vegas, I think he's going to be dialed in. I think he's going to get that win and propel himself into that next round.
I'm going to go ahead and give Martin Truex Jr. the win here. He's got a win here in the last few races. He's had a lot of top 5 finishes as well. And just being able to take that car and week in and week out get the most out of it, Truex is who I've got. Moving on, Talladega. One of those super speedway races that we get again, this time in a playoff scenario. I'm looking for somebody to really take this event and capitalize off of it, and that's going to be Kyle Larson, in my opinion, that is able to do that. Really needs to shake up potentially in the championship contention. This is a guy that could really do it.
Yeah, I think if he doesn't, if the season plays out for him the way I kind of think it might, he's going to probably need a win to propel himself into that next round, the round of 8. Is that the round? Yeah, I think it'd be the round of 8. Yeah. So I think he'll need the win to be able to do that. If he doesn't get a win in this round, I think it may be a little bit hard. I don't think he's going to get a ton of stage victories. He might get a win or two, but I think he'll be a little bit behind on points. So if he can pull out Talladega, he may have a real shot to make a run this year. But I don't think it's going to be him. I think a guy who's really going to have more of a target on his back this year. With Chase Elliott winning the championship last year, they get compared a lot. They're supposedly best friends. Ryan Blaney, he's good at Talladega. He's good. He's a good racer in general, but he seems to be just a guy that kind of fades just a little bit towards the end, or just doesn't quite capitalize on early race speed. He needs to have a strong playoffs. He needs to at least get to the round of 8 and be knocking on the door of the championship 4 to really elevate himself into that next level. And he's got a good enough car to do it.
Yeah.
Penske, I mean, they had 2 cars in the championship 4, so there's going to be a target on him, a spotlight on him. I think he's going to do it at Talladega.
Yeah, and he was somebody I picked earlier in the season at Talladega to win, so I completely understand where you're coming from. The next event is the Charlotte Roval,
yeah,
which is
becoming one of my favorite races.
It's an iconic race now with just everything that's happened over the last couple of years. It's really cool to take all the aspects of the racing that it involves, and somebody that's been able to capitalize on this event in the last couple of years is Chase Elliott. I think this is really where we see him step up again and get a win.
Yeah, I think it's going to start becoming one of those races like, is someone other than Chase Elliott going to win this race? Obviously, Blaney won the first race. He really wouldn't have if Johnson didn't wheel hop and get into Truex there at the end of the race. But my pick is the same as yours, is Elliott. I just think he's just so dialed in, especially at this track, the confidence. It may be a little tougher than it was last year, but either way, I think I like Elliott too.
Yeah, so we go from the Roval to Texas, which we've talked about can be a wild card race. It's very similar, in my opinion, to Atlanta, where Kevin Harvick has had success, and I picked him earlier to win. So I'm picking him here late in the playoffs, taking his knowledge at a similar track that he's had success at, and he's had success at Texas as well. I'm picking Harvick.
I like it. I would pick the same, but I want to be just a little different from you. So I'm going to go with a guy that probably won't be on too many guys' radar, but he has won at Texas. He's got some iconic moments at Texas, so maybe ones he'd like to forget, but I'm going to go with Brad Kay. I think this is going to be the race that he wins and propels himself into the championship 4 again. And if he doesn't get re-signed with Penske, man, I would imagine he's got to be a highly sought after free agent driver, because if he has a season like I've already talked about, he's going to be one of the top drivers all year.
Yeah, and so we move from Texas to Kansas, and somebody that neither you or I have picked yet that was a contender at the end last year is Denny Hamlin. I've got him winning here at Kansas because he's got 2 wins out of the last 3 races here. So this really could be where he stamps his way into that Final Four Final Four, right?
Yeah.
And is a contender once again.
Yeah, he needs to, because you're right. We don't have him winning in the playoffs as of yet. But, he didn't do extraordinarily well in the playoffs last year, but he had enough playoff points built up. He was able to somewhat coast into the championship 4. Won't be surprised to see him win at Kansas. I'm going to personally go with Harvick because he finished second here last year. And really, if he had just got around Logano, he would have been in the championship 4. And, maybe he would have actually won that race at Phoenix too. He's usually strong there. So I'm going to go with Harvick at Kansas.
All right.
Who you got from Martinsville? This race was huge last year. The champion won this race last year, dominated this race last year. Will we see the eventual winner of the championship also be the winner of Martinsville?
It's going to be interesting to see if it's along the same script as last year. I don't know. It's short track racing is so much fun to watch, and it can be dominated by one driver, but will it? We've seen it play out that way before, and if it does, I think somebody that could really benefit from that style of racing, especially as I've got it laid out in this scenario throughout the season, is Kyle Busch. I'm expecting him to be able to take home a championship once again, or at least be in contention to do so in the last weeks of the season. So that's who I'm rolling with.
He's got some really good track history at Martinsville, and if this is a bounce back year for him, like you think it might be, I like the pick. I really do. I'm gonna go with the guy who won last year. I'm gonna go with Chase. It's tough. There's some other guys that I want to go with at this race, but I just think as we get down to the crunch time, and really, to me, what really puts Chase in the win at this race is actually his crew chief. I think you just got to have everything dialed in. I think they played it out perfectly with giving them the best equipment right at the end of the year. They were dialed in, and I think that's what really helped Chase win. His cars were just a little bit better, and that little bit was enough for him. So to me, if Chase does win Martinsville, it's really going to be because of his crew chief, Alan Gustafson.
I can't argue with that. He's a champion, and he showed what he was able to do last year. And as it winded down, we saw him really step up. And in this scenario, as we get into the last race, I'm going to go ahead as we roll into Phoenix that final week of the season.
So before we go in, so for sure at this point,
okay,
we have 3 different winners for the last round. So that means one driver is getting in on points. My current top 4, we'll say top 3 that are in would be Brad Keselowski, Kevin Harvick, Chase Elliott, and then someone's getting in on points. Without obviously figuring all that out, my guess would be Truex or Kyle Busch probably. Logano could also be in that mix again. He is strong, especially late in the year. You have Harvick, you have Hamlin, and you have Kyle Busch. Who else do you think might be your points guy?
Well, I don't know if we get 3 Gibbs cars with Truex, so I'm see him having
seen
some
it
success.
before.
We have, and that's why I'm not thinking this year it's going to play out that way. I have Hamlin there. I have Busch. The point scenario has to be Harvick, in my opinion. So that's who I have there.
Well, you have him winning. So you have him winning, so he is locked in.
Oh, I do have him winning.
In Texas, yeah. So you have Harvick, you have Hamlin, and Kyle Busch, yeah.
So it absolutely has to be Chase Elliott.
Okay. So this is tough. This is really tough, but I'm gonna go with Chase Elliott repeats as a champion this year. I think it's. I don't think we're gonna see quite the domination we saw last year. I think it may be a tighter race throughout. I really like Brad in that race again, and if Harvick does get in with a win or even in on points, he's gonna be really tough at Phoenix again. But I personally, if Chase Elliott is in the championship, I'm gonna pick him to win. I think he'll just outrun everybody.
Well, I'm going to pick the person that I have that has won the most races so far in the schedule, and that's Kyle Busch. I think he really is going to come out with a chip on his shoulder and something to prove. And this is a track that he's had 2 wins at before. And with Chase being there, I completely understand where you're coming from because there's been so much success there, and he had so much success late in the season. He's going to be a contender, absolutely. But I'm picking Kyle Busch. He's going to be the champion in my opinion. I think there's just too much pent up frustration that he's going to just be able to release.
If he can do that, that'd be amazing. I have a hard time seeing that with what will be considered a rookie crew chief. I know the talent Kyle Busch has, and if he does get to the championship four, I won't be surprised if he's able to pull it out because of the talent that he has. But I don't think he will make the championship four. I think he'll come up a little bit short, but I do think he will have a better run this year than he has in years past.
Only time will tell.
Or last year, I should say.
Only time will tell.
Yeah. So, that's it, man. That was quite the episode.
Rundown.
Yeah, we really got into it. But I like all our picks. It's going to be really interesting to see who gets closer, who's the closest on their predictions at the end of the year. Either way, we're going to get, I think, a hell of a season. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a blast. The thing I'm really most excited for is to get back to some DraftKings action. We're excited to be with you every step of the way. Every week we're going to be putting out a video, going over our content and all that stuff. We'll go into more detail, but all that in a later episode. So why don't you go ahead and give us a like and subscribe on YouTube if you're enjoying the content so far. If you're listening on Spotify or one of the other podcast platforms, be sure to give us a follow. We're also on all the socials at the DK Garage. We'll have that in the description down below. So with that being said, man, any last thoughts on what we might expect this year?
Oh, I'm sure it's exciting, and we're excited to have you along with us. And as we continue to grow, we want you to be a part of it. So if you can comment anywhere on any platform, we want to be able to interact with you and take you along for the ride.
All right. With that being said, we'll see you in the next episode.